there. Today we're making some delicious mulled hot cocoa to enjoy along with our craft. And these are just some of the ingredients that you will need in order to make this marvelous beverage. There's milk and some warming spices and cocoa. And if you notice in the background, I have a coffee filter and some kitchen twine because I'm going to be tying the spices up before I drop them in the milk. Let's make this. Alright, so as you can see here, I've got my spices in a coffee filter. I'm going to tie this up with the kitchen twine. I'm going to go ahead and drop the cinnamon sticks into the pot of milk as it warms up. Well, once I get this tied up, I'm going to drop it in to the milk as it warms up as well. The milk is going to come to a nice simmer, not a rolling boil. You don't want to scorch your milk, but a nice simmer. Turn it down and let it simmer for about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how strong you want the spice flavor to be. Make sure your kitchen twine is tied pretty tight, and also make sure it's long enough to hang out over the side of the pot so that you can pull it out with ease. I'm also going to measure out my cocoa and my sugar. So into this measuring cup, I'm going to put about half a cup of cocoa and 2 tablespoons of sugar. The cocoa is unsweetened. Using a whisk that together and then just set it aside. Seeing as how you have about 5 or 10 minutes. Alright, so you can see it's come up to a lovely simmer, and I've let it go for about 10 minutes because I like the flavors to be pretty strong. So now I'm going to remove the spice packet and the little cinnamon sticks. And you can go ahead and throw those away because that is not necessary to keep for any reason. And then I will be whisking in the cocoa powder and the sugar. So I've whisked my cocoa in, and it only took another minute. Got my ladle handy, got my cocoa cup. You could add marshmallows if you want. You could top it with some whipped cream or even a little dollop of ice cream if you like. I'm just going to go with a nice plain cup of mulled hot cocoa and enjoy learning how to knit something coming up next.
Hello! Today I'm going to show you how to make knit cozies or knit sleeves for hot or cold drinks. This is a great simple project for knitters of any skill level. You just need to know how to do the basics like casting on, knitting, purling, and binding off. You can practice different patterns. This is a nice basket pattern, but we're doing a rib pattern today. So you'll need knitting needles, a ball of yarn, scissors, and an upholstery needle, which is just a big needle with a rather blunt tip. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is take our needles. I'm using a size 4 set, by the way, but you can use whatever you want, although smaller is probably a little better. Make your slip knot. Leave a tail of a few inches. And then start casting on, using whatever casting on method you're comfortable with. And because we're doing a rib, and in specific we're doing a 2x2 rib, so it's knit, knit, purl, purl, we will want to cast on an appropriate number of stitches. So you'll want to have enough stitches to start with 2 knit stitches and end with 2 purl stitches. I came up with 32. That's a good number. Feel free to use it. So here you have your first row of cast on stitches. Okay, at this point, we are going to do the rib, which is knit, knit, purl, purl, repeat until the end. Here you have your very first row of 2x2 rib. Now, we are going to continue on with the exact same thing. Okay, so here it is, row 2 of your 2x2 rib stitch. Looks pretty good. Have your tail. It's a little messy, but it'll get better as we go on. So you're going to keep doing the same thing until the piece is as tall as you want it to be. You could make it as tall as this cozy, which is probably 3 or 4 inches. Or you could do something smaller, just a couple of inches. It's up to you. So keep going and I'll see you there.
When you've got it to the point you want it, it's time to bind off. I'm going to do just a simple knit bind off. You can do what you're comfortable with. So it ends up on the right hand needle, bound off on the top. Here's your bound off edge of your first cozy.
And all I have left is this loop. So you cut your yarn, and you're going to take the end of the yarn and put it through the loop, like so. You're going to pull it through and make a little knot. You don't want it to be too tight, but not too loose either. And voila! Look at that stretchy rib. Moving on, we're going to start using our upholstery needle instead of our knitting needles. And we are going to put the sides of the pieces together to make sure they're even. Nice thing about a rib stitch is there is no right or wrong side. Now, if your tail is long enough, you can use it to stitch the sides together. I don't think mine is long enough, so I'm going to use my ball of yarn. I'm going to go ahead and thread my upholstery needle. It's a little bit tricky, but it can be done. And once you have it threaded, you're going to join the corner edges of your cozy. So you want to come up under one side and grab a corner stitch, and then go to the other side and come up and under and form kind of like a figure 8. Go ahead and trim your tail. And continue on. So we are going to line up the knots of the knitting, which can be a little bit hard to distinguish, especially if you're new at knitting. So they look a little bit like this. And I just want to say that it's not that important to be very, very careful here. If you're making a sweater, it is. On a cozy, this is not as big of a deal, and you can use this as a way to practice. So you're going to go in between the knots and pick up the stitches underneath on on one side and then weave it over to the other side and pick up the same stitch in between knots on the other side. And you're going to weave the yarn in and out all the way up the side. Alright, you can take your needle off and take a look at your stitched edge. Looks pretty good. You can turn it inside out. Looks pretty good on that side too. So then the last part is to weave in these last threads. Alright, take your piece, check it all around, look for any ends of yarn sticking out that you need to trim. You can stretch it out, and wow, look at this, we have a new cozy. Go ahead and try it on a cup. I have a little teacup here. Gonna make sure it fits. And it does. Look at that. Pretty nice. So the library has tons of great books about knitting. Come in and get this Knitter's Dictionary. Regardless of your knitting skill level, we have something for you. Here's a great one. Add one stitch knitting. We also have stress relieving knit books like this one, Knit Yourself Calm. And perfect for right before the holidays. You'll have time to make some knitted gifts. Thanks for watching.